chat. You're also seeing it on your screen and the title slide here that's showing up on your computer screen. If you can see that, if you could sign into the meeting, we'd appreciate it. We'll be using that to follow up with everyone. Our meeting tonight is being recorded, and we're also streaming it on Facebook as well. So for those of you joining us via Facebook, we will be utilizing the chat feature in Facebook as well and dropping links to those things that we're referencing tonight as part of the meeting. Okay. So again, thank you. Thanks for joining us. We are meeting this evening to discuss a proposed project here in Lawrenceville, and it is a last mile distribution center that is planned for the former Sears outlet at 2750 First Street. So this meeting is a part of our community process. We bring projects like this and others where there could be significant community impact or public approval processes. This is a part of that process. So thanks again for joining us. And we're gonna jump right into it. Again, the meeting is being recorded. We also are streaming this live on Facebook. We do have everyone muted right now. We have a portion of this meeting is presentation. So myself and my colleagues from LC and LU will be presenting some information and then turning it over to representatives from Amazon who will be presenting their proposed plans for the site. And we will then be opening it up for Q&A. And so you'll have an opportunity to raise your hand, to unmute yourself, to drop questions in the chat. But for now, we're asking that folks stay muted as we work through this first portion of the meeting. So again, tonight, we're going to do a short welcome, go over our community process, also talk a little bit about this specific site. So, you know, why is this triggering our community process? What's happened here? There's been a lot of activity at this site, a number of community meetings over the last 2 years. So just going to provide a brief overview of the site, what happened with Spear Street Capital, what's led us here today, share some results with you on the Amazon survey that's been circulating, and thanks to many of you that filled that out. Go over some relevant community plans for this portion of the community, and then we'll turn it over to Mara Kennedy and her team with Amazon, who will present their site plan and present what they're planning for the site. And then we'll open it up for questions and answers. We're then going to have a community discussion. Hopefully time permits us to get to this. We're gonna respectfully request that Amazon leave the meeting, and we will stop actually streaming live on Facebook, but we'll give folks that are able to register via Zoom an opportunity to jump back into that Zoom meeting. And we're gonna have a community discussion around how the community's feeling about the proposed project and potential next steps. We may need to schedule a follow-up meeting, and that's something that we can certainly do based on where we are at the end of the meeting tonight. So quickly, this meeting's being facilitated by Lawrenceville Corporation and Lawrenceville United. I just realized I didn't tell you who I am. I'm Lauren Connolly. I'm the executive director here at Lawrenceville Corporation. I am joined tonight by a few of my colleagues, Emily Persico, our community development manager, Rachel Weber, our business district manager, and Sarah Murphy, our operations manager. So we have our full team here for the meeting tonight. And I'm joined by our colleagues and co-facilitators, Lawrenceville United, and I'll turn it over to Dave to introduce himself.
Hi, everybody. Dave Bringen. I'm the executive director at Lawrenceville United, and I'm joined here with Ellen Bierhardt, our community engagement program manager.
Thanks, Dave. I think we have some elected officials with us as well. I'm going through the participant list to make sure I don't miss anyone. I know that Representative Emily Kincaid has joined us with members of her team, including Bridget Barrett. Representative Sarah Inamorado is with us this evening. City Councilwoman Deb Gross has also joined us tonight. So thank you. If I'm missing anyone, if one of my colleagues could let me know, but thank you so much. You know, I think we've all heard that there are a number of questions and concerns about this project, and there could be significant community impact. So thank you for joining us this evening. There will be some chance when we open it up for Q&A and comments if any of you would like to share anything at that time. I'd also like to thank Andrea Lavin-Kosis for joining us tonight. Andrea is our neighborhood planner with the city's Department of City Planning. So Andrea has joined to kind of listen in and see what's being presented and what the community response is, and to answer some of the questions we might have that are specifically planning related. So turn it over to Dave to introduce LU.
Hi, again, Dave with Lawrenceville United. So for those who are not familiar with Lawrenceville United, our mission is to improve and protect quality of life for all Lawrenceville residents. So we call ourselves a sister organization to LC, but we are narrowly focused on the needs of residents. And so that is our constituency. We're a membership-based organization. You can join as a member. We join 750 residents who are members. And our board of directors is comprised of residents and former residents that are all elected by our membership each and every year. And we actually have our spring membership meeting next week. We do a lot of work around the neighborhood. We run the farmers market, work with older adults, our neighborhood public schools. We do a lot of direct support for residents, a lot of work around affordable housing and food access. And I'll stop it there.
Thanks, Dave. And just a little bit about Lawrenceville Corporation. Our mission is to serve as the catalyst and conduit for responsible growth and reinvestment in the Lawrenceville community. Our membership is primarily comprised of small businesses and partner organizations. Most residents are members of Lawrenceville United, although we do have some resident members of LC. Our focus areas, business district management, preserving affordability in both the residential and commercial markets, thinking about eco district communities. So how are our places performing for people and the environment, and then developing a complete riverfront. So everything that we work on kind of fits in those boxes. And we work really closely with Lawrenceville United as it relates to community planning and this specifically this community process. So we are committed to making these meetings accessible. Obviously, we're given COVID, we've moved all of our community meetings online into the virtual platform, but we're still trying to keep these as accessible as possible. So people without internet access can phone in. I do believe we have some folks that have phoned in this evening, and so we will we'll make sure that we're providing some time and space for you all to comment or ask questions when we get to those points. Presenters are encouraged to describe any visual. So because we have folks participating by phone, for my colleagues, myself, and for Amazon, as we're presenting any visuals, if we could describe those as much as possible, that's appreciated. If you, as you're participating in the meeting, have any issues navigating the technology, we can help. Please utilize the chat feature within Zoom or the comments if you're participating via Facebook. You can private message one of the hosts. You can email Emily. So Emily, our community development manager, who's here at the meeting tonight, is monitoring her email in addition to the chats and can help you via email, or you can call us. So although we're all working in different places right now, our phones are ringing to our cell phones. And so Emily's number is 412-621-1616, extension 108. So you can call Emily if you are having any tech issues during tonight's meeting. And please let us know via phone or via the chat if there's anything else you may need, or anything in that moment you may need to participate fully. I'm just going to pause right now to give some time if anyone wants to utilize the chat or speak to that right now, if anyone has any immediate issues, accessibility issues.
And again, you can private message one of the hosts too, and we will try our best to accommodate that.
Great. Okay, we're gonna keep moving.
So Zoom bombing is a thing. So we do our best. We have a lot of people here tonight, and we want to make sure everybody can participate. But we also, because unfortunately this has happened to us in the past, we do have some security protocols in effect for tonight. Zoom bombing is when someone intentionally disrupts a meeting like this. This has happened before, as I mentioned. We do want to protect the safety and everybody's well-being in this space. So if we do suspect that a Zoom bombing is occurring, we will check in via direct chat. If it's unclear what's going on, we may mute or disable individuals or the entire group just until we can kind of get a handle on things. We may remove any responsible individuals. And if there are too many disruptors for us to handle, we may just end the meeting. It's just unfortunately what we had to do the last time. So hopefully we won't run into that tonight.
Thanks, Dave.
And if you're, many of you are regulars at our in-person community meetings where we've had these, we always go through ground rules. We want to use everyone's time respectfully and well tonight. These are our Mr. Rogers rules. So we like to invoke his spirit. The general principle of these are that we're all going to act neighborly here tonight. We're going to be respectful of all speakers, including people in the audience who are asking questions and making comments. We're not going to denigrate any groups of people. We will ask, just because there are so many people here, and that you save all of your questions for the end of Amazon's presentation so that they can get through all of their information first, and then we'll open it up for the Q&A. We will probably not get through everyone's questions here tonight. We're going to record those. We'll follow up with Amazon and get as many of them answered as we can. During the Q&A portion, we also don't want people to hog the meeting tonight, so please be respectful of other people so everyone can participate. And if we do have any ground rules that are violated or ignored, we'll ask you to leave. We may mute you, we may remove you. And if we can't maintain decorum in this virtual space, we may just end the meeting. But hopefully we won't get to that.
Thanks, Dave. So we're going to talk a little bit about our community process and some planning to date. So we, Lawrenceville Corporation and Lawrenceville United, initiated this process back in 2011. Since then, we've taken over 100 development projects and 50 liquor licenses through this process. Back then, there was a smaller group of representatives from each of the community organizations that was reviewing projects and developing positions as to how those organizations would orient themselves towards those projects. We heard loud and clear from the community that the community wanted to know what was being proposed and what was happening, and wanted to build direct relationships with developers, with business owners, ask questions, and to be informed. So we created this process. It's really just so that the community knows what's being proposed, they can provide that direct feedback, and so that they can participate fully in what that process looks like. So even after Lawrenceville Corporation or Lawrenceville United might take a position on a project, a resident or business owner has all of that information as well, and they can choose to participate however they decide. We do attempt to build consensus around positions on projects. Sometimes that's possible, sometimes it's not. Usually LC and LU are aligned in their position, but there have been times when we've had different positions as well. But our goal is to attempt, when possible, to try to build consensus. So what projects do we take through our process? So those that are already going through an existing public process, that could include something that's going in front of the zoning board, the planning commission, something that's seeking the Urban Redevelopment Authority of Pittsburgh's approval or public financing, the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board, so liquor licenses that are liquor license applications that are going through the PLCB's process that has a public approval process built into that. Projects that require city council approval, or air quality permits through ACHD. So we have taken projects like these through our process. And why are we here this evening? So in terms of what Amazon has proposed, or what we know of to date of what they've proposed, we believe in some early conversations with the city and city planning that some of what they've proposed around parking could trigger some variances or special exceptions related to surface parking that's being planned for the site. And it has the potential to have significant community-wide impact. So when there are projects like what's being proposed, where we think there will be significant impact, we bring it through the process. So that is why we are here and have, that's why it's triggered our process. And just to clarify, Lawrenceville Corporation and Lawrenceville United's role in this process, we are not affiliated with the project. So we are not owners of the property. We have not recruited this developer or the use We have no authority to intervene in the private transactions between the lessor and the property owner. And so the community process has kicked in now that Amazon has leased this space from a private property owner, but we are in no way affiliated with any of those parties.
And this is just a visual describing what our community process looks like. Typically, LU and LC, when we get word of something coming down the pipeline, we'll have an introductory meeting, try to get a little more information, figure out if it is going to trigger out those public processes or not. Very often we'll gather some information as much as we can in advance of these community meetings. And then we're at the third stage now, which is actually having a community meeting. This is where we're really opening up to all of you, and we want to hear directly from you. And then from here, afterwards, from here, we will be attempting to take your concerns, take what you've told us here tonight, and working in earnest based on what you've told us. Very often that includes us taking a position if it does wind up at the zoning board or some other public process. Other times it may involve, negotiating community benefits, things like that. And by the way, we will include, as the process unfolds too, we will, as long as you signed in, we'll inform everybody of every step of the way so that you can participate yourself as well. So this site has a long track record in our community process. So I just wanted to provide some background here. Back in November of 2018, so almost 3 years ago, we had our first community meeting with then Northwood Development, who had purchased the site. They were planning to do Dock 51, which was a tech and office use that they were proposing on the site. About a year later, they sold the property to Spear Street Capital, a very large developer, national developer. We then began a process with them to understand what they were proposing. We had a community meeting in October, went through extensive negotiations around their proposal, which included, again, a tech and office use, about 1,000 jobs on site. And their zoning board hearing, which they required a couple different variances from the riverfront zone. So that put them in front of the zoning board hearing. As part of that process, all of those community agreements were presented to the zoning board. LU and LC, for our part, though we worked very hard on those community benefits, we did not, even then, we did not outrightly support those variances because of the deviations from the RIV. But we did request that the zoning board make those conditions, those commitments conditional to any approval, which is what happened. The zoning board approved those conditions, approved the project with the conditions. So since then, we had heard, then of course the pandemic happened, and we had heard from Spear Street in June that they were still planning to proceed on spec. And then we first heard of a change of plans in December when local news broke the story that Amazon had secured the site. So we found out, just like everybody else, we reached out at that point to the property owner, Spear Street, and got connected to Amazon. We've had 2 meetings with Amazon since then, in December and April, and just got some preliminary understanding of what they're proposing. And as Lawrence had said earlier, we can't say exactly for sure whether or not this is going to be at the zoning board, but based on what city planning has told us, which is speculative because they have not seen this. They only had a pre-application meeting yet, so they haven't seen all the specifics yet. So this is not in stone yet, but there could be things related to this site plan that do trigger a variance or a special exception that would bring it in front of the zoning board. And I'm sure Mara can speak more to that during Amazon's presentation. I did want to share, I mentioned all those community benefits that we negotiated. We worked very hard on these. So I'll just kind of quickly go through these. These actually take 2 separate slides to get them all in, but we negotiated extensively around the installation of street trees, given the proximity to the riverfront and a lot of where our air pollution settles, and one of our main polluters down there in the neighborhood. The Spear Street had agreed to provide a bike trail along the riverfront that would be tied to future riverfront sites. There was a lot of transportation demand management steps that had been employed things to mitigate the impact of potentially 1,000 employees on the site and all of the vehicles that would be bringing to the site. So things like promoting public transit use, promoting biking to work, things that relieve congestion for the community, and also support, public transportation. Also providing public transportation options on site, healthy ride bike stations, bike parking to the riverfront along that bike path where there'd be picnic benches and public spaces for people to come and enjoy the river. There's a lot around here around transportation demand management, enrolling in, requiring tenants to participate in Bike Pittsburgh membership programs, again, encouraging to be a multimodal, company, whatever came there, requiring tenants to enroll in Port Authority Job Perks program to really incentivize the use of taking public transit, actually incentivizing it further by providing transit passes to tenants, doing monitoring of how people are arriving to the site for the first and third years. All of these things came directly out of goals that the city of Pittsburgh has set as part of their transportation demand management guidelines. Participating in the Pittsburgh 2030 district, I've seen some comments already about impact on environment, which came out of our previous process. So that has to do, the participation in that program has to do with energy efficiencies and building performance and environmental impacts, soliciting MBE and WB bids to ensure minority and women businesses are accessing opportunity with jobs that come along with the development, and then $50,000 in contributions to 51st and Butler, which in Lawrenceville Corporation's streetscape study of Butler Street was really identified as one of the more dangerous intersections. Obviously, this was going to bring more traffic, more impact to that. So making it a safer intersection for pedestrians, for bikers, as well as a bus shelter there. So that was a lot. Those are all the community benefits that we negotiated as part of that process.
Thanks, Dave. So in addition to, the community conversations we had around the Spear Street development, after we had the first meeting with Amazon, we did initiate a survey that Emily from our team is going to talk a little bit about.
Thanks, Lauren. So basically the goal here was to see with the change and kind of the proposed plan from office retail to a distribution site to see how priorities had changed among the community and what position we need to be taking and what concerns there were initially. So we released a survey. Altogether, we got 291 responses, mostly from residents of Upper and Central Lawrenceville, but also from a lot of our business owners and from nearby neighborhoods like Stanton Heights and Lower Lawrenceville. The first question on there was, do you support the opening of Amazon's distribution facility at this location? We found that 62.5% of people said that they did not. And then the next question after that was really just asking why they did or did not support Amazon in this location. And the number one concern we heard was concerns about traffic and a lot of other related concerns like the impact of traffic on pedestrian and bicycle safety, the impact on public infrastructure, so the wear and tear on roads, and then already concerns about car accidents and hitting parked cars, things that are already happening now, and people are worried about being exacerbated by Amazon's vans and trucks, and then the impact on air quality and on noise. Then kind of separate from the traffic concern, there was also a lot of people concerned about the impact to small businesses, about Amazon's employment practices, and the barrier that this warehouse would create to riverfront access that was previously kind of discussed at the site. So those were kind of the bulk of the results. We also asked for people's questions, and we've compiled all those questions and we'll be getting to them later on in the meeting.
Thanks, Emily. So we're adding those questions that you've already started dropping into the chats, be it on Zoom chat or Facebook chat, to that list. And again, we will have a question and answer session with Amazon after their presentation. For those that we won't get to, we will certainly follow up on. But thank you to all of you for responding to that survey as well to help inform this process. So just wanted to touch on very briefly, in addition to all of that feedback that we received, we have revisited our community plans that deal with this part of the neighborhood, and two of the most relevant are our Green Boulevard plan and our Upper Lawrenceville plan. And so some highlights of those plans talk about the build out of a multimodal pathway adjacent to the Allegheny Valley Railroad. So really connecting the community along the riverfront, and then really strong perpendicular connections from the community towards the river. That plan talks a lot about riverfront open space, new uses that would involve community open space amenities, recreational amenities, and ecological enhancements. And then the Upper Lawrenceville plan, that plan did acknowledge that we have a lot of industrial uses in this part of the neighborhood. And we appreciate those. We appreciate, the jobs that those have brought historically to the neighborhood and that they continue to generate. But that as some of these parcels begin to transact, we want to think about new uses that are more sympathetic to and more complementary to what's happening in the neighborhood as it's evolved. So we'd like to avoid adverse impacts, some of what we just talked about related to traffic and air quality issues, activate underutilized space. We have a lot of surface parking in Upper Lawrenceville. So the plan really talked about how can we activate a lot of that underutilized space along the riverfront. And McCandless Avenue was actually highlighted as the spine of this part of the neighborhood. And it was really, people were really excited about, as part of that process, greening McCandless Avenue and really focusing on McCandless Avenue becoming a strong connection to what could be that Green Boulevard or riverfront trail, connecting to that and connecting to the river at McCandless. The plan also talks a lot about affordable housing and thinking about new uses along the river. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Mara Kennedy, who is here with Amazon. I do want to acknowledge this meeting is not mandatory in any way. So we do appreciate Mara taking the time to meet with us as part of tonight's meeting. And Mara, I do have the site plan, so I can bring it up whenever you're ready. Just let me know.
Terrific. Thank you all. If you wouldn't mind pulling it up, that'd be great. So I just wanted to say hello again. I'm Maura Kennedy. I am the Economic Development Manager for Amazon. And many of you know me. My previous role was with the City of Pittsburgh, actually, where I managed the Department of Permits, Licenses, and Inspections for several years. I'm joined here by my colleague, Dan Fuchs, and he is also based here in the state of Pennsylvania with me. So we are here today to talk with you about our proposed facility. And it is a last mile delivery station. So this is the last place where an item is before it goes to the customer's home. This is not one of those large facilities like you see on our advertisements with the robots and the very large warehouse feel. Again, this is a last mile facility, and it's dramatically smaller than that. We are not actually proposing any changes to the structure, the old Sears structure on 51st Street there. So just to sort of give you a sense of our overall operations, many of you, I'm guessing, maybe Amazon customers. When you put an item in your cart, it is then selected from one of those warehouse fulfillment stations, placed in a box, and then routed either directly to a last mile station if it's an item that's stored close to you, or if not, it is taken to a mid-market or mid-mile facility, and then from there it comes to a last mile facility. So to talk with you a little bit about the operations of this facility, we will be having line haul trucks between 5 and 15, depending on the time of year, arrive overnight, typically between midnight and 6 a.m. arriving. They would drive down 51st Street. Again, we're not proposing any changes to the envelope of the building. Come over here to the existing loading docks, unload. This is the time when the majority of our Amazon employees would be working overnight. They would then take the items off of the line haul trucks and put them on, large baker's racks, so giant metal racks in the structure. From there, they would then put them in what you would think of as hockey bags, and they would then be grouped by route. So then starting at 10 a.m. the next morning, we then have delivery service drivers starting to arrive for their shift. They then park off their personal vehicle, or they get off transit, either one, hop in an existing van, pull up in very well coordinated waves of 20. And then slowly but surely, minute by minute, a van would be released into traffic. We do it in this well choreographed way, starting after the morning rush, to make sure that we're not adding any additional traffic to this site or this facility. The van drivers would then go out for 10-hour shifts, and then return their van to the facility empty. So there would be no sort of drop off of packages at that time. Additionally, we would have flex drivers, which are employees that would come and pick up items in their personal vehicle and drop them off. So those would arrive at 4 p.m., pick up the items, and then make those deliveries, and they would not return to the station. So that is sort of the life cycle of the facility. As Lauren and Dave were talking about, this facility as it is, the structure right here, conforms with the existing zoning of the site. So I think a significant point of differential between us and the previous use is that we are not asking for a variance to operate this facility here. That conforms with the existing base zoning. We were able to meet with the city planning and zoning department, and they were able to helpfully confirm that for us. We were also able to meet with the city councilwoman. We appreciated her feedback regarding the site, as well as Lawrenceville United, Lawrenceville Corporation, and the Riverfront Corporation. So we really want to be good neighbors here. We want to operate the site in such a way that it does not create any increase of traffic during rush hour time. So this would be a really, again, significant point of departure from the other facility where you had 1,000 people coming and leaving during the main rush hour times. And going forward from that. Also of note, all of our employees and all of our delivery service providers and flex drivers earn a minimum of $15 an hour. And all Amazon employees, direct employees that are full-time, would receive the exact same benefits, wages, 401k that I do from their first day of work. And as a bit of a joke, I can tell you it's actually significantly better than my previous health insurance and benefits for the city of Pittsburgh. So it's a very fair benefits package there. So then as well, our delivery service providers, we then contract with local transportation businesses, either existing already in the community or new ones that we can help create to help us deliver the packages. I also want to talk that, I know that Amazon has a big commitment toward climate change. The company is committed to being carbon neutral by 2040, and we've made significant strides to that end. We actually purchased a company that was starting to create electric vehicles, and we are actually funding the creation of electric commercial delivery vans. So we are slowly over time looking to replace all of our fleet with commercial electric vehicles. So that effort is underway. Again, we actually purchased that company several years ago, and we are hoping to bring some to the market soon. Again, to talk about associates, again, everyone makes a minimum $15 an hour. We anticipate hiring between 100 to 150 Amazon associates. There will be another 75 to 100 delivery drivers, and then approximately 30 additional Amazon Flex drivers at this site. So, we really appreciate this opportunity to speak with the community here tonight. to meet with everyone. You know, again, I think it will be a little bit different of an entitlement process than Spear Street, since we are a by right usage for the site itself. But, you know, we want to be here, we want to be good neighbors, and that's why we're starting this dialogue today. I'm also really pleased to say that Amazon is committed to building out the very first portion of the Riverfront Trail in Upper Lawrenceville. So of this site where we occupy adjacent to the riverfront right here, we have worked with our landlord to build out this site. So we've met with DOMI and we've met with the Riverfront Corporation to learn more about their specs and their process to make sure that we are designing a trail that meets their needs. So again, you know, we really want to be a good neighbor here. We are here because this is frankly where our customers are. You know, we are locating these delivery stations in places where we're having significant customer density. So, you know, we want to provide good customer service to our colleagues, which are your neighbors. And that is why we have chosen this site. So we will not be, you know, serving locations far away from the site. This will be actually a delivery station for, you know, members of the Pittsburgh community and very, you know, nearby adjacent suburban residents.
Thanks, Mara. Can you, just while we have the site plan up, can you, before we get into the question and answer, can you just kind of walk us through again, like what is happening on 51st? How is traffic entering into, a lot of the questions we have relate to traffic, traffic impact. So I think if we could go over that. So what's happening on 51st, and for everyone that is tuning into the meeting, 51st is on the left-hand side of the screen. And then the riverfront is at the top of the site plan that you're looking at. And then the blue shaded area that you're seeing is along McCandless Avenue. So yeah, Mar, if you could just talk about it with that orientation of kind of what's happening in these different sections of the site. I think that would be informative to a lot of the questions I think we've already received tonight.
Absolutely. And I apologize, I was moving my cursor around the map. I'm not sure if you want to give me control of the screen for a minute. That could help illustrate, or if you want to move your cursor as I speak.
Sure, why don't, yeah, I think we did disable screen sharing to avoid any kind of Zoom bombing, but I am happy to use the cursor to come along as you talk. I'll do my best to.
Great. Yeah, I think that is helpful in terms of visualizing the flow of traffic here at the site. So starting at 10 p.m. at night, when the first sort of wave of potential line haul trucks start arriving, and again, these arrive one by one so that we can be very methodical about unloading them and managing the flow of traffic. So when we talk about the number of line haul trucks, they're not going to be all arriving at once. That's the total number throughout the day. So if you want to trace your cursor down 51st Street, they're going to be coming down 51st Street, then making a right into the site. So this is the existing orientation for this structure and the existing path of their delivery vehicles. So we're not proposing any changes here in terms of how the old Sears facility used to receive their deliveries as well. So they would enter the site, travel down there along the river, and then drop off their cargo here at these red loading docks right there.
Oh, sorry about that. So they're coming down 51st along the river, and they're coming into this red shaded area, which is where all of the truck loading is taking place.
Correct. So we're not proposing any changes to the existing dock doors. And then if you again start on 51st Street, the yellow arrows.
Yep. Here on the south side of the this is the portion of the site that's closer to Butler Street, just so that everyone kind of is following what's being proposed.
Correct. So this would be the drive path or walk path of the associates. So again, when they'd be starting their shift, they would enter there, park their personal vehicles, you're exactly right, in that yellow area, and enter the facility. And then the delivery service vehicle starting at 10 a.m. This would be, if you go down now to McCandless, they would drop off their vehicles here, in one of the empty spaces, hop in a delivery service van, and then drive, keep following these green arrows onto the old Sears site. And then it's actually we're proposing to load the vehicles. If you make that exactly, proposing to load the vehicles actually internal to the site. So we won't have any exterior loading of the delivery service vans. So then they would load up and then depart the structure. And then they would make that right again up there, drive back, and then exit on McCandless.
So the vans are coming, folks are coming in on McCandless, coming in through into the site to be loaded up, and then back out McCandless. So all the van traffic is actually coming in and out of McCandless Avenue.
Correct. But
Okay.
that circulation is going to be internal to our sites.
Okay.
So
And
we will not be having.
Just so folks know, there were some questions around like what are these sites then? And just since we're not showing any kind of renderings or, if you're walking down McCandless, this white building here is where the Big Easy Animal Hospital is. These properties owned by Schreiber. Right now there's a building here, right? So I guess you're proposing to demo the building that's here now?
Correct. So we're proposing to demolish this structure here. It's sort of a dilapidated warehouse currently. I don't believe it's in use.
Okay, so there's a warehouse here and there is existing surface parking here, and this is existing surface parking. So just so folks kind of know what the area is that we're talking about, hopefully that's helpful for folks.
Correct. So we're not, nowhere in this plan are we suggesting we're increasing or making any changes to the amount of impervious surface. So we're making no changes at all to the structure, and we're not making any changes to the amount of impervious surface on any of the lots.
Thank you. Are we okay to open it up for questions and answers? No? Are you okay with that, Mara? Okay.
Sure.
So we have a number of questions here, and we're going to do our best to work through these. Again, for those, we're going to try to summarize them and get as many of those ones that kept coming up over and over again answered first. We are recording the meeting. We're going to be copying the chats from both Facebook and the Zoom chat so that these will all be recorded, and we will be able to come back to those and follow up on these with you.
So just a friendly reminder about our ground rules. Let's again keep it neighborly and make sure that we're sharing the space, that everybody gets a chance to ask their questions. If you go to the next slide, Lauren. Yeah, so I see people have already been dropping lots of questions and comments in the chat. That's great. We encourage you to do that. If you are joining us by phone or you're not able to use the chat feature, you can use the raise hand function. You can see that if you're using Zoom, you go down to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and hit the raise hand button. If you're joining us by phone, you would use *9, and then you would use *6 to unmute. And we do have a little post survey that we're going to pass around. So if questions don't get answered here tonight, we're also keeping a long track of them as you dump them into the chat, but we will capture those and follow up with Mara and her team to try our best to get those answered.
Great.
Yeah, so it looks like we have a few people who've already raised their hands. So I see Christine and then Bruce. Do you two want to start? Christine?
Okay,
can you please identify yourself too? I'm sorry. Just let us know who you are and what your relationship is to the site or to
Okay. Hello, I am Christine Fréchard, and I will be 2 blocks away from the Amazon warehouse. And I have a beautiful art gallery on Butler where the traffic is already very intense and where there is no parking space. So during the day, it's already very difficult to cross the road. I cannot just imagine having Amazon trucks or drivers in the street. But I would like people to think a little bit outside of the box, and we need to start thinking about the collective consciousness, if I can bring that up here. It's like, I feel like, Amazon is growing larger and larger, like an octopus, and it's kind of completely changing the the urban map in many cities. And even shopping at Whole Food now become a struggle, because all you have is Amazon shopper, and the parking lot is mostly reserved next to the door to them. So I mean, we need to understand that letting them grow, it's also, I think, damaging little businesses, giving power to the ultra, the 1%. And I think that Lawrenceville United and Corporation has done a wonderful job the last 20 years, because I was on Butler 20 years ago, and that was far too early. And I'm very proud of that team. For me, Amazon coming now with all those promises is a little bit like, I'm sorry to say that, but Chinese promises. They come up with beautiful proposal and things like that. You don't know what it's going to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. So on my side, I would like to know if we still have a word to say, or if it's already a done deal. Is the discussion still open?
Sure, I appreciate that question. We're here tonight because we do value the community's feedback. This is a by right use for the structure itself. This site is zoned industrial, and we are proposing to use it in a way that conforms with that zoning. But again, we are here tonight because we want to hear from you, and we are being genuine when we say we want to be a good neighbor. I'm happy to say that more than half of all items sold on Amazon come from small businesses and third-party sellers. So this was an important way for small businesses to stay afloat, especially in these, pandemic times. The revenue that small businesses made actually grew by $1 billion last year on the Amazon platform. So, we think that this can be in addition to amenity for small businesses, not an instead of. And again, we're here tonight because we want to work with the community. We want to hear your feedback, and we're looking forward to being your neighbor.
But are you aware that with Amazon, a lot of businesses shut down?
So, I think that there is always development and always change in the economic community. Again, Amazon's a good partner to small businesses. And, again, we have been a very important platform for a lot of small businesses to continue to be vibrant in these challenging times when people have to shut their physical locations and something similar.
So yes, sorry, I don't want to take everybody other time, but thank you so much.
Thank you. No, thank you, Christine. We're going to try to get through those that have raised their hands. Then we're going to jump because a lot of folks have submitted questions in the chat. So we'll read a few of those questions in the chat.
I just hope that it's not too late, and I really don't want Amazon in the neighborhood. No. Let them go to Etna, Millvale, but Lawrenceville is a total nonsense. It's like downtown Pittsburgh. Lawrenceville is like close to downtown Pittsburgh. So it's a no. If I have my word to say, thank you very much.
Thank you. No, thank you for sharing that. Bruce, we're going to come to you.
Thank you. I just also want to thank Christine for her comments as well previously, but also I don't think pushing something like this to another community like Millville or Etna or anywhere else in the area is necessarily fair or equitable as well. But my question is a little different. In November of 2020, the Pennsylvania state legislature and the governor passed Act 106, which allows for personal delivery devices or delivery robots within our cities here in the state of Pennsylvania. And the way that the legislation was written doesn't allow the city or municipalities any authority or regulatory authority to control these personal delivery devices, which are usually meant to deliver from something like a FedEx station or Amazon station to a house or a store, something like that. These devices, as the legislation was acted, are we're going to be operating on our city sidewalks, competing for space with pedestrians and those with mobility issues, strollers, using wheelchairs, things like that. So my question for Amazon is kind of two questions. One, does Amazon, are you all planning on potentially using personal delivery devices in the state of Pennsylvania? And if so, will they be using them at and out of this site, specifically on 51st Street, whether soon or in the future? And if you are planning on using it at the site, will you, Amazon, commit to going beyond the state's legislation and allow the city and our community to regulate any use of these personal delivery devices or delivery robots on our public taxpayer sidewalks?
Sure, I can tell you that we have no plans to use those autonomous delivery robots here, and I'm not aware of any plans in the state of Pennsylvania to use those.
Thanks, Mara. We're going to go through a couple questions in the chat, and then we see a few hands raised, so we will come back to you. So a lot of the questions have to deal with traffic. So I think, Mara, if you could speak to, have there been any traffic analyses or traffic plans done related to your plans here for the site? Has a traffic study been done? Has that been presented to the city? Has that been required? How have you determined that the way the flow of traffic will work through the site? So utilizing McCandless versus Stanton or vice versa. And then how do you plan to mitigate any impact that there is on the surrounding streets?
Sure. We have had a preliminary meeting with the city that Domi participated in. This site does not meet any of the clear triggers that require a traffic impact study. That said, again, we want to be a good neighbor, and we do intend to do one here. We have not completed that, and we have not submitted any permits or other applications to the city yet. We wanted to have this meeting and discuss this plan with the community first. I think that the biggest change here and way that we are making sure that we are a good neighbor is by having our operations happen outside of those peak times. So, we are not putting traffic into either the morning or the evening rush. So that is a really significant change from our use as opposed to, the previously proposed use or some of the other uses in the area. So all of our shifts are staggered and none of them start or end during those peak morning or evening times. I can say that I personally live 0.2 miles away from an Amazon delivery site, and there's no issues regarding that. Amazon takes its traffic control and site management and site coordination very seriously. It's to no one's benefit. Again, we are in this community because you are our customers. We want to be a good neighbor. We want to have our customers, think that our facility is an asset by having faster delivery times, not an issue. So again, we keep that traffic management and our commitments to the communities in that way very manageable. One other thing that I should point out, which I think is a key point of difference from FedEx or UPS or USPS that you might be familiar with, is that Amazon does dynamic routing. So we are only on a street if we are delivering a package there. We're not similar to any of those other entities that I named where they have sort of static routes where they have a steady route and they do deliver packages along that route, but they also stop at facilities to pick up packages. Again, we are only dropping off packages, and the route is actually dynamically engaged and organized every day depending on the packages on that vehicle. So they will not be on your vehicle or on your street typically any more than they are now, when your neighbors are ordering packages. They, load up at the facility and then quickly depart to the regions in which, those customers are ordering packages. And again, our presence on a specific street or specific neighborhood is driven not by, again, our preset routes. It's by the fact that you or your neighbors are ordering from us.
Thanks, Mara. Just to, I'm going through all of the questions related to that. Can you again give the breakdown of the number of vans that would be entering or exiting at any given time, and how frequently they're coming in and out, and then how you're determining the routes? So are you sticking to, main streets like Butler Street, or traffic coming out at McCandless and Butler? Will they be going up McCandless to Stanton Avenue? Can you talk at all about the routes that these vans will be following?
Sure. So typically we'll have 75 to 100 drivers on an average day at this facility. And again, they are very well choreographed. We have waves of 20 staggered approximately 30 minutes apart, starting at 10 a.m. So we are doing this in a sort of slow drip method, such that, you know, frankly, our facilities do not get overwhelmed anyway, that it's sort of a steady pace to load up the vans. And also such that, you know, we are not creating any sort of additional traffic burdens in the community. And again, you know, there is a much lower traffic volume at, you know, at 10 a.m. or later than there is during the peak commuter times. And in terms of exit routes, you know, I would say that, again, it's going to be varied by the packages that are being delivered. So if there are, you know, until very recently, I lived in Upper Lawrenceville, and one of my neighbors ordered from Amazon a lot. There's an Amazon vehicle on our block and driving up Stanton Avenue all the time because she was a big Amazon order. So, you know, those types of routes and those types of orders are going to be consistent, and that's really going to be driven again by where our customer activity is taking place.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna jump back to folks that did have their hands raised. So Greg and then Eileen. Greg, I'm asking you to unmute so you can ask your.
I'm unmuted. So
Okay.
I live on the street that's parallel to the river. It's just beyond the Amazon proposed center. And my concern is right now, they can't even control the traffic on 51st Street nor McCandless. There's been illegal parking there with Penske trucks for about a year. And the city has done nothing to mitigate this issue, nor has anyone stepped up to say, you know, like they're running an ancillary business on this street. So how is Amazon going to be able to control this and do traffic control? Because right now we have a big population of trucks coming through and going through Goodwill since that's been opened back up.
Sure. Again, you know, our site's designed such that we absolutely can contain all of the vehicles and all of that traffic flow on our site. So, you know, we are even doing loading of the vans internal to our structure. So you will not see any sort of queuing issues or things like that at the site. So again, we take that very seriously, and, you know, the parking space is more than adequate to meet our needs to make sure that we are never having queuing issues or things like that on the street.
So that has nothing to do with the question that I asked. What I was asking was, how are you going to control the streets beyond the proposed McCandless and 51st for the major traffic? Because right now, Harrison Street becomes an easeway to get through Goodwill and go the back streets to avoid Butler and the traffic lights. So how is that going to be addressed? Because right now the city can't control the traffic as it is. And quite honestly, the streets are not maintained. And, you know, what are they going to do to help that out? Because, you know, it's a major issue living right beyond that.
Sure. So again, you know, we are committed to doing a traffic impact study. And, you know, we have designed all of our shifts and our operations such that we aren't adding additional traffic during those peak problematic times. You know, we are
So
operating.
you are doing a traffic study? Because I got the impression that there wasn't any triggers that warranted or something. That's what it came off before, that they weren't going to do a traffic study.
Our site does not meet any of the clear thresholds in Pittsburgh code that would trigger a traffic study. Again, because our traffic levels are actually significantly, you know, significantly less than what was proposed in other sites. Again, the previous use was proposing 1,000 trips a day. We're at, you know, approximately 200 trips a day. So our traffic impact is going to be dramatically less than, you know, the most recent round of traffic studies that you're familiar with. And again, our use is going to be happening outside of those peak times. Again, unlike the most recent proposal for this site, where they were looking to add 1,000 trips to, you know, the busiest time of day. So we're happy to continue this conversation. Again, there are no
Are
clear
you going to do
triggers.
this study or not? Because I kind of got lost again. Like, is that a yes, you're committed to doing an impact study, or you're not going to be?
We are doing an impact study, but I'm saying that it's, in addition to, there are no clear triggers on the site that would require one.
Thank you. Thank you for those questions, Greg. We did, I do want to add, Lawrenceville Corporation and Lawrenceville United did formally request, send a letter requesting that a traffic study be mandated for this site, given the anticipated impacts. We did share that with the mayor's office, Councilwoman Deb Gross, Domi. So we have requested that. Aileen.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi. Hi, Amazon. I will be your neighbor. I own the Big Easy Animal Hospital next door. And I have just a question or two that I'd like to know. My first question is, will Amazon be using the parking lot on the north side of 12 McCandless Avenue, which is the Riverside, which is Big Easy Animal Hospital's parking lot to connect to your facility? Because the parking lot is not a thoroughfare for vehicles unless it is approved by the Pittsburgh Zoning Administration. My landlord is pretty much has been working on modifications on that parking area. We've had surveyors come out looking around. We've talked about setting up a fence so truckers won't run over kids with their puppies or the elderly carrying, cat carriers or whatnot. And so with that, it leads me to my second question. Will Amazon be filing a city approved site plan? My landlord states he doesn't need one. My concern is if he doesn't abide by Pittsburgh zoning compliance, my certificate of occupancy could get revoked. My understanding is that there needs to be an application for the reconfiguration of any modification to both sites. My understanding per a zoning administrator from the Department of City Planning states, quote, any change to the parking configuration will require an application and would be evaluated on that basis. I do not agree that your landlord can modify your parking without an approved site plan. The proposals by Amazon for additional parking beyond what exists on the former Sears site will require significant review and approval as well, unquote. And I just want to be a good neighbor, but I'm also protecting my businesses and protecting the well-being of my employees, my clients, pets.
Absolutely, and I appreciate that question. We fully intend to comply with all the appropriate entitlements process for the site. In fact, we've already had a meeting with the zoning administrator regarding the steps for all three parcels here. So we're not looking to do anything inappropriate. We are not in any way looking to disrupt your business or put any of your customers at harm. Obviously that's a, private conversation that we can have with your landlord and yourself regarding, making sure that you and your customers feel appropriately shielded. And we also, to sort of clarify, we're not proposing running any trucks, as you were saying, through this site.
So nowhere on the Riverside, the parking lot on the Riverside. Yeah, that's perfect, guys. Where the cursor's at. Let's see, because you guys have, you guys have the traffic going between my building and what used to be the oxygen warehouse, which they are no longer there. My landlord is already working on, if you can put the cursor on the other side of the parking area, which he's trying to reduce my parking spaces for my clients and my employees. I know his intention was to break down the fence because there's a road that connects to Amazon right there. So I kind of want to make sure that is true, that you guys are not going to be going by that road, because then I don't understand why I'm going to be paying for paving and paying for this and that if there's Amazon will not be touching any of that space.
So we have approached your landlord and yourself about the possibility of extending the river trail on this parcel as well. If possible, if that works with the landlord and yourself. Again, we realize that you are a valued current tenant. We're not looking to disrupt your business, but we think that it would be beneficial to the community to be able to build out both portions of this parcel. So that is the only activity that we'd be looking to do there. Again, that would be something that we'd work out with the landlord and yourself to make sure it was feasible. and we're not looking to disrupt your business or endanger your customers or clients in any way. We'd only be looking to build out both of those two segments of the river trail. And those would be the first two segments of the river trail in existence in Upper Lawrenceville.
So when you talk about the two parcels, are you talking about the parking lot, again, by the river, behind my, like, next to my building?
So correct. The Sears Street parcel, we are currently proposing that we'll create a segment of the river trail here. And it's not depicted on this plan because it's not, we obviously have not all agreed to it. But if possible, and if we can all come to agreement, Amazon would like to build out an additional segment of the river trail connecting the trail to McCandless.
So the trail is for biking, is what you're saying?
It would be the riverfront trail. So it would be
So no motorized vehicles, correct?
correct.
So no motorized, as long, okay, no Amazon trucks, cars, whatnot, besides my clients.
Well, this would be the riverfront trail as if you could see it down by Point State Park. So that's what there's existing community standards from the Riverfront Corporation, Lawrenceville Corporation, DOMI, regarding what they'd like to see in terms of the riverfront trail. We've had conversations with all of them, and we're looking to build a trail to their specs.
And when do you guys propose this trail to be built, more or less?
Again, the portion on the Sears site, of which we control the whole parcel, we would look to be constructing that in the next year when we begin construction of the site itself and get approvals. Again, we have proposed to the landlord of the adjacent parcel to the north that we could extend the trail. That's obviously something that we would have to talk through to make sure it not only worked for Upper Lawrenceville and all the citizens here, since I know that McCandless is obviously an important connector, and they're seeing this as being a important part of the trail to build out. So this would be an amenity that we'd love to build out for the community first. But obviously we can't do that, and we won't do that if that disrupts your business and the landlord's business.
Thank you, Maura.
Okay.
Thank you.
We'll get to Susan and Jesse here in a second, but did want to go back to the chat. We got a lot of questions about worker conditions and local hiring. So a number of questions talking about, unionization practices at Amazon, concerns around stressful working conditions, no bathroom breaks, no hazard pay, things like that, and how will so if you could speak to that, Maura, and how will you be sourcing jobs for the jobs that will be created with this site? We had a suggestion earlier. I know we have a representative from Goodwill here with us tonight, but there was a question earlier around, would you work with Goodwill, for example, one of the largest workforce development centers in the state, to ensure that we're prioritizing local hiring and disadvantaged workers are getting first access to these jobs?
Absolutely. We'd welcome partnerships both locally to make sure that we were attracting and hiring from local workforce, and we're more than happy to partner with Goodwill and other nonprofits in the area. I sit currently in Philadelphia right now, and we have very successful partnerships with similar agencies here in Philadelphia. We're one of the largest employers that hire from Project Home, which is the city of Philadelphia's homelessness and homelessness prevention organization. And again, I'm happy to say that we are also large employers of returning citizens. So, we are happy to work with all of those groups. And again, making sure that we are, publicizing these opportunities and reaching out to people in the local community to make sure that they're aware of that. Again, Amazon is proud of the benefits that we offer. All of the full-time Amazon employees at this site have the exact same 401k, health insurance, retirement benefits, educational benefits that I do. There's only one tier of benefits at Amazon. So all of the executives and all of the, warehouse workers enjoy the same benefits in that way. And again, we almost double what the state's minimum wage is in terms of payment.
Can you speak to worker conditions and some of the concerns that I brought up and that have been brought up in the chat?
Sure. I haven't been able to read all the chat comments while I've been speaking, but I can speak generally. So, we appreciate that, our drivers are out in the community and we want to make sure that they are taking breaks. So we actually monitor their actions and we make sure that they are stopping regularly for breaks. And if we see that they've driven too long without a break, we actually pop up something on their delivery screen saying, hey, take a break right now. You need to do this. I will say that more than 80% of all delivery service vans are returned to the station with all of their packages completed prior to the end of their 10-hour shift by more than an hour. So the vast majority of our drivers are able to deliver their packages in significantly less than their 10-hour shift lots. And we, of course, still pay them for their full 10-hour shift. So, this is something we monitor. Again, we want to make sure that we are creating an environment that is safe, that for not only our customers, but also for our drivers and our employees, and treating people fairly. We want to have a good workforce and we want people to find this a meaningful place to work.
Okay, I'm gonna turn it to Susan and to Jesse, and then I wanted to get to we got a number of questions related to environment impacts too. So we'll do Susan, Jesse, and then we'll take it, sort of try to encapsulate a question related to that. Susan, do you want to start?
Sure. Hi, Susan Van Alstyne. I'm a resident of the 6th Ward here in Lawrenceville. And one of the questions that I had was really around more of the larger long haul trucks that'll be coming through the neighborhood. One of the negative impacts we've seen with a lot of the other industrial that's located along the river is that you tend to have some of these really larger trucks trying to come down side streets, not necessarily 51st and or McCandless, which are definitely, larger street routes for them to come down. And then negatively impacting some of the smaller side streets that are just not built to handle that large of a vehicular traffic. So can you speak a little bit about the routes of the larger long haul trucks that they would take as they're coming to that site? I mean, obviously they're going to probably be coming down Butler, but is it planned that they would really come from 40th Street or further up in Lawrenceville and further out towards 28? I can't remember the name of the other bridge there. Is it really, are they limiting their time in the Lawrenceville area by coming across from something like 28 and then down Butler to either to 51st Street and turning there, and then when they leave, essentially following the same route back out, so Butler Street to say the 40th Street Bridge, and leaving the neighborhood that way, or are they traversing longer down, Butler Street to Allegheny River Boulevard, or I don't know what your proposed routes are when it gets a little bit further away from this particular site. Thanks.
Sure, I appreciate that question. So the majority of our trucks will be traveling north up 28 and then going across the 61st Street Bridge, down Butler to our facility. That is how the majority of the vehicles will travel. Again, the items on the truck and therefore the exact route will largely be driven by what you and your neighbors are purchasing. So again, there might be odd exceptions where perhaps there is a load coming from a different facility. Say if there's a heat wave in Pittsburgh for a day and everyone is, buying sunscreen and at a time that's unseasonable and we're not storing that nearby, there are some sort of oddities where trucks might come from other places. But that will be the standard path that our line haul trucks will be taken. We have a internal software system that our truck drivers use for routing, and we are able to dictate the routes that they take and nix streets from the routing software. So again, we're happy to work with you to make sure that we are nixing Smallman or Railroad or streets like that from the software so that we are routing trucks appropriately. And then also we are able to monitor where the trucks drive. So say if there is an issue where a driver is ignoring the software and the routing that they are being directed to take, we are actually able to see that and make driver correction in terms of behavior. So we are very, very successful in making sure that our drivers are taking the approved routes.
Okay, Jesse. Jesse, are you able to unmute yourself?
Yeah, how are you doing? This is Jesse Goldstein. So I'm a provider, a physician at the Children's Hospital of Pittsburgh, and I take trauma call up there. And I also live in Upper Lawrenceville, and I have 3 young kids. I wanted to talk similar to the previous question, but a little bit differently about the smaller delivery van routing programs that you guys are instituting. As you probably know, since you lived up Stanton and had friends in that area, that McCandless on the other side of Butler is a very highly residential area. In fact, there is a parklet right up on Carnegie and McCandless that is frequented constantly during warm weather by kids just out of school, and in the summertime, year round, all day the kids are out there. Kids will bike and walk and run across the street, which is McCandless, and I'm really nervous about the health and safety of our children in our neighborhood. So I wanted to get a commitment from you guys to, and maybe as part of your accessory traffic study, to commit to helping provide and maintain the safety of our kids in this area by adding speed bumps to McCandless to make sure that your drivers are maintaining the safety in the area.
Sure. I definitely appreciate the concerns that you have for your children and the community of children that you serve. Those types of traffic improvements would be things that we'd work with the city to institute should the city want. I appreciate that this is something that you might feel could be needed, but hey, Amazon can't really roll up and put a traffic speed bump out there. But again, we're happy to work with DOMI, review this, monitor traffic, and should they advise this is needed, we're happy to continue that conversation with them.
Just as kind of a time check and where we are in the meeting, we're going to ask a couple more questions and thank you to everyone who is here tonight and are asking all of these great questions, sending them via the chats and raising your hand. We really appreciate it. We're going to get to a couple more questions that we have here that came through the chat. So we have a few more of those questions, and then we are going to we will ask Amazon to leave the meeting, and we'll stick around and have a quick conversation around kind of next steps as the community. So I think Dave had some environmental specific questions.
Yeah, we had a number of questions related to the environment. Will Amazon be doing an environmental impact study? Are you planning on planting trees? Stormwater management was also a big part of our last process. Can you speak to any of that, Maura?
Sure. So we definitely, one thing I did not call out specifically that I'd like to mention is that we will be making improvements to the facade of the structure, the old Sears building, to, improve the look and feel and make it more consistent with the current community standards. So that will be some investments we're doing. We're also, looking to do some landscaping around the site. Happy to receive feedback on that. And also spoke with the city planning about that. We are not, intending to make any changes to the impervious surface coverage on any of the lots. But we would of course go through any of the stormwater reviews if required. I think our biggest sort of change in that way, again, is looking to add out the trail amenities, both on the Sears Street parcel and the adjoining parcel, if that is possible. Again, if it works with the current business owner and the landlord.
Thank you. Just a question. We've heard from a few of our small business owners just kind of in this area, but throughout Lawrenceville. Can you talk to how Amazon plans to support the small businesses in the neighborhood that would be most directly impacted by this?
Sure. So, again, we are choosing this site because we are serving existing customer bases here. So I wouldn't anticipate that this site would have significant impacts on the current consumption patterns of the neighborhood. We've not worn that So, we are citing this site here because we are serving the current consumption patterns of the residents of Lawrenceville and the surrounding communities who are current Amazon customers. That said, Amazon as a corporation has invested more than $15 billion in the last several years supporting small businesses. We want to make our platform to be another tool for long businesses to survive and flourish, especially in these challenging times when we can't all run out to our corner store. So, we're happy that our platform has provided more than $3 billion of sales for small businesses, and more than half of all items sold on Amazon are from third-party sellers. So, that is a core part of our business. We want everyone to be successful, and, we want to continue to work towards that.
Thank you. Sorry, a question.
Okay.
A question in the chat. You did mention, Mara, the commitment to exploring or building out a piece of the Riverfront Trail, which was one of those community benefits that was a part of the Spear Street agreement. Have you all considered any of the other, if not all of the benefits that were outlined in that agreement with Spear Street?
Sure. I think that, our site does not create a lot of the issues that community benefit agreement was intended to address or mitigate. So again, the Spear Street development had 1,000 additional trips during rush hour times. We're not proposing any of that. We're talking about 200 non-peak trip times. So, while we appreciate that, the previous development created a lot of problems, which then you all work together to create solutions for. I'm really happy to say that our site and this, what we're proposing here today does not create those types of issues for the community.
Thank you. Can you remind us of your timeline on the overall project, your anticipated timeline?
Sure. We hope to apply for permitting this summer. And since, again, we're not making significant improvements to the building itself, we are hoping to begin operations in 2022.
I'm just revisiting this list one more time to see. And I apologize. I know we have a number of questions that everyone has shared. We appreciate those. We will be following up on all of those. Mara, if you are up for it, we'd love to submit these to you all. If you could spend some time with answering some of those that we weren't able to answer live as part of the meeting tonight. But we could report out to everyone in the community with those responses. I think the one question that, unless Dave has any additional after this, that kept coming up was, is this already a done deal? Is this happening regardless? I know you spoke a little bit to the zoning processes that may or may not be at play, but I guess if you did feel as though the community did not support what was being planned at this location, would you still pursue this location for this use?
Sure. I think that the city has created an entitlement process to allow for by right uses. They have gone through and zoned every piece of land and said, okay, this is the type of use we want on this parcel. And what we're proposing here conforms with that base zoning. So we're not proposing any change from what the community and the city has said we would like to see on this property. So, if we were proposing a change to say, hey, we want to do something different from what the city has already gone through its engagement process to determine should be the use here, that would obviously be a much different conversation. But we are looking to construct or to operate a facility that fits pretty squarely within what the city has determined they'd like to see here in terms of uses. So we're not proposing any changes from that.
Thank you. I think unless Dave, there are any kind of final questions that you've seen come in.
No, I think out of respect for everyone's time, we have a lot more questions. So we are taking down your questions. We're not ignoring them. We will follow up with them, but just out of respect for everybody's time, I think we're going to close the Q&A.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with you all today. I know Zoom meetings are hard to fit in for everyone, and I appreciate everyone attending this special meeting. I really value all the feedback that we received. I'm happy to answer more questions that we've had. Again, hopefully we can build out 2 segments of the trail here if possible and create this into the start of something very good in Upper Lawrenceville. So thank you.
Thank you, Mara, and thank you to the members of your team who joined you tonight.
Have a good night.
Good night. So if we were in person, we would, this is when we ask the developer, the business owner to leave, and we just have a conversation among members of the community where we feel like we can be honest about how we feel about the project, but we can also start to strategize around how as a neighborhood we're moving forward. So just to remind you of kind of what would happen now, Lawrenceville Corporation and Lawrenceville United, we can take positions and usually do take positions at the zoning board. We do believe that what they've presented could trigger some variances or special exceptions or some specific zoning